Nation, this is the first time I feel I have to pre-text an album review with a warning. And we're going to get that out of the way right now. I want to warn everybody that not everybody is going to feel the same way as I do on this one, on this review. Not everybody is going to click on this review, watch it, and perhaps leave with the same experience with this album that I did. And this isn't based around that simple, everyone has their own opinions bullshit. This is based around a whole lot more than just that. It's based around personal feelings or what this band has really meant to me throughout the course of my lifetime, the course of my fandom, and just the course of the events that my life has kind of played out. The closeness that I really feel to this music, and a lot of things that it happens to represent behind closed doors as opposed to out in the open. So if you have opinions that are not the same as mine whenever it comes to this record, don't be surprised. Don't feel as though you're a minority, because there's a good chance that a lot of you will. And I am looking forward to seeing each and every one of those in the comments box below. And I will not personally lambaste you with negativity based around them, because I know, going in, I knew before turning on record that this was going to happen. And with that said, let's get on with it. Let's actually talk about it. This is only a couple years in the making, not even 4. However, it feels like an eternity for a fan like myself. Let's talk about The Devil Put the Dinosaurs Here, or The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, from Alice in Chains. The 2013 release, due out this coming Tuesday, which I believe is May the 28th. It's a hugely critical release. This is something that's very important, considering this is the second album that Alice in Chains will be doing with Layne's replacement, essentially, William Duvall. And if you look at the band's official profile or their biography or anything like that, you'll note that he is really only doing backing vocals and rhythm guitar work, which means that Jerry Cantrell really is the fixtured voice for the band. So for those who are arguing a lot that the band doesn't sound like it has Layne in it, well, duh. Layne's unfortunately not been with us for, well, about 10 years now. Not to mention, also, it's the fact that it's Jerry's voice that's shining forth, and we're getting mainly the harmonies and some basic work on the side also from William Duvall, which is creating quite a nice atmosphere. That said, this is an album that has been predated by a couple of singles that have come out to kind of herald its arrival. We first got Hollow, the very first track off of this record. We started to experience this track in our daily lives as early as January, or for some other people it was in late December. It was exposed late December on their website and also for iTunes, but we really started to hear it in heavy circulation after the first of the year. And then as of recent, as of just about a month or so ago, we got Stone, which is track number 3. And really, a lot of people have been very critical about both of these songs and really, really like these songs because they have a really trademark heaviness to it. They definitely seem to capture that Alice in Chains dark, murky feeling. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, that dark, murky feeling may not necessarily completely get abandoned on the remainder of this album, because it doesn't. In fact, it's very ever-present. However, that dark, very heavy sound in some places, well, it's not present. Now, this isn't like Black Gives Way to Blue, where we hear soft acoustic elements laced throughout the album and then have the album end with a richly piano-based piece. This is not an album that is necessarily still mourning the loss of their dear departed friend Layne Staley. And no, they're not going to do an album, based around the loss of their former bassist, but hey, let's be honest here. Alice in Chains is a band right now that has now been back together, has now been reformed for longer than a lot of people may realize. It's been closer to 8 years than anything else. They've been with William now for about 7 or 8 years, and this is their second studio release, which means that they finally have had the opportunity in order to really hone everything together and kind of grow together as a band. And that writing really starts to reflect itself hardcore on this record. Right whenever you get into the first track that is not been heard so far from anybody, from any fans, Pretty Done, you start to realize that the first half is going to be a very heavy slab. It's going to be one that's going to have a lot of the traditional Alice in Chains ideas that you have been really well akin to now for more than 20 years. But as you start to move on, whenever you start to hear songs such as Voices, The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, Lab Monkey, then you start to see the elements of Alice's lengthy career just kind of show up every so often. You start to hear elements from the earliest days with Facelift. You hear the dark, murky mood, maybe not to the same degree as Dirt, but you definitely can feel its ever-present, ghost, really. And then the Tripod album, which was an experiment all by itself, something that was definitely mainly based off of the fact that it was just so murky, so disgustingly depressing, is something that just kind of casually throws glimmers here and there. Principally because this isn't an album that's really meant to do that. This is actually just an album that's meant to make you think a little bit more. The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, it's such an odd phrasing for a title, but it really is one that plays on the concept of religion. The fact that, maybe dinosaurs are evil because it's an evolutionary theory. It's not one that supports the presence of the Bible. There's a line in there, the devil put dinosaurs here. Jesus don't like no queer. Ain't nothing about faith, just fear. It's a pretty powerful message right there. It's really, really powerful. And it's definitely a harsh critique, even though it's done so simplistically. One of the real highlights of this album, though, has to be the song Low Ceiling. This is the song that really just changed the whole entire game for me, and one that I think I'm going to be holding as one of my most important and cherished Alice in Chains songs for many, many years, decades, millennia to come. Principally because this song has within it so many different feelings. There's so many different ideas that seem to be ever present on this one singular 5-minute and 15-second long track that it's almost head spinning. You almost feel like it's about drugs even though it might not be. You don't know, oh no, my ceiling's low. Is this room too small or have I grown? The line is kind of paraphrased right there. I know that I just spoke that wrong, but I'm in the moment. This is the first time I think I've had nerves for an album review since 2009, guys, so forgive that. But I get a feeling that a lot of that might be about Layne. I have a feeling that a lot of that might just be about drugs in general. I have a feeling a lot of that might just be about somebody who is, trapped inside a very small area, a small shell of an existence. However, philosophy aside, it's probably also the track that should herald a lot of change that you hear on this record as compared to the first half. Whereas the first half has a lot of aggressive elements, and the first half has a lot of metallic elements, this is one that almost really cements that whole hard rock status. Hard rack city. This is one that actually has a little bit more of a hard rock vibe to it, and it is really swirling around just kind of simplistic guitar ideas. However, that's what actually works to its advantage. I almost think a lot about Jerry Cantrell's solo work and how it's really influenced this new formation of Alice in Chains, and how it's really kind of spawned this sound that we recognize as Alice right now, as opposed to the sound that we recognized Alice by prior. And it is actually a very nice elemental touch because it shows an artist that is not afraid to infuse some of his own personal loves within the music. And the same can also be said about this newcomer, William Duvall, considering he's able to bring a whole separate bag of tricks as well. As you continue onward, Breath on a Window definitely seems to continue that whole idea, and then you get this Scalpel Phantom Limb, the long 7-minute and 7-second long song that really, as far as musical conception is concerned, doesn't seem like it really goes too many different places, but it doesn't need to. That's the beauty on a lot of these songs, is that they don't have to be tremendously complex. They don't have to be, wretchedly overdrawn out by ridiculous, amounts of technical proficiency. Immense bravado by these men on their instruments. Instead, this is something that's organically able just to shine forth in its simplicity and in its variety. Jerry Cantrell actually uses a wah pedal, almost like you think that Bob Rock stepped in and said, "Listen, Jerry, this wah-wah pedal has helped many, many people that I've aided, from Motley Crue to Metallica." And Jerry was just like, alright, whatever, it sounds cool. And he put it in. It's in Lab Monkey, and it's actually a pretty nice little gapper right there in the middle of the song. Hung on a Hook, on the other hand, is something that may draw some criticism, either that or it may draw a lot of praise. It really is going to depend on who you talk to. This is one song where William's vocals really shine forth, and you can definitely tell the change in tone. You can really tell the change in just the entire mood and atmosphere of this song based around just the vocal tone that you hear. And it really is quite stunning. This is a track that definitely will attract attention, and one that will definitely create a little bit of buzz once people are able to pick up and listen to this entire record this coming Tuesday. It ends with Choke, and Choke is definitely a song that kind of feels like it is exactly in its place. And I believe this song has actually been circulating on some radio stations also. I don't think as an official single. I think some people have just received like a special bonus track, as I felt as though I've heard this song before. So perhaps I'm wrong. However, it felt very familiar, and I liked what I heard. This album is going to resonate with me a whole heck of a lot more than it's going to resonate perhaps with you. And I'm not saying that to be a braggart. I'm saying that because Alice in Chains' music has constantly been perhaps the soundtrack to my life. Not necessarily because I've been a fan ever since, In Utero, because that's certainly not the case. I didn't discover this band until right before high school. However, it's been what the music has really represented, and how it's something that has been there for me in the good times, the bad, almost like, a wife. It's weird. Rooster's a song that is constantly played at least twice a year in honor of my uncle, who is a serviceman. Down in a Hole for a long period of time in my life was my happy song. Yeah, I was a morbid son of a bitch at one point. Not to mention, consider the topicology, the topics of the song. I'm trying to be eloquently fancy here for you guys, and it's failing miserably. Consider the talks about, darkness, depression, drug addiction, death. These are all things that most of us have experienced, but perhaps not to the degrees as others. They're all things that I've experienced, so Alice has always been very near and dear to my heart. Now let's talk about rating this album. Is it possible? Is it something that, I should even be qualified to do, considering I'm having so many fangasms about this with each passing song? Yeah, I think I am qualified. I think I've been doing this for long enough that I've been able to examine this album fairly, not just to say this is an instant 10, because it's not. It really isn't. On the second part of this album, it does at points seem to drag a little bit. There are also moments in time where not everybody's going to really appreciate the fact that this is 67 minutes long. Yeah, they're actually going to feel as though this is one that should have passed the coverkillernation 40 or 50 minute spot test. But instead it was 67. I like the extension. I think that gave a lot of these, songs real room to breathe. And it really gave them the opportunity to have all of the atmosphere required in order to get the message across. Yeah, it does drag a little bit. And yeah, sometimes the simplistic nature of some of these riffs can really seem to, perhaps create a little bit of a, rhythm or something that's, becoming the typical sound. But here's the thing. The tonal quality and the way in which the songs themselves, where you could really designate them, that's where the differences really lie. This is an album that's been backed by 2 huge singles, and this is an album that I think those are the singles that had to be released. Those are the ones that are the most reminiscent to the Alice in Chains that so many people have known. So those were the perfect selections. The rest of this album is going to be a matter of debate. It's going to be something where a lot of people are going to listen to it, and perhaps their feelings are not going to be as strong as their feelings were for Hollow or Stone. They may listen to this variety and not be as pleased with it as some others. And still others will probably listen to this album and not be willing to part with it from their CD player for a very, very long time. For me at least, I can't give it a perfect 10. Absolutely not. I can give it a 9 out of 10. Because I feel that it is going to be one of those underrated classics of the year. I think a lot of people will listen to this and perhaps be off-put by some of it. But for me, it's something that's put me on ever since the very first listen. It's something that's definitely encouraged me to repeat the experience over and over again. Considering I've listened to Low Ceiling now probably at least 20 times, and that's just in, 1 or 2 days. That's pretty bad. But that song really resonated with me. Just like a lot of these other songs may resonate with you. A lot of them may have already resonated with you, considering you've heard Hollow and Stone. Overall, this album is going to be very, very curious in Alice in Chains' discography. It does have its moody elements, but its mood seems to be designated in a different direction. The focus is in a different direction. It's not one that's based around depression. It's not one that's based around drugs. It's not one that's based around mourning. Instead, it's one that's focused around thought. It's one that's focused around religion. It's one that's focused around the people around us. Perhaps the problems that they have, perhaps the things that they've been in. Things that, well, matter a lot. The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here is going to be an album that here in 2013 is going to really move a lot of mountains. It's going to be one that may actually encourage some outcry, but overall I think it's going to be, really written down as one of the more solid releases of this year. This is definitely an album that has Album of the Year potential in the, rock and pop categories, even though it probably classifies itself more as metal. This is going to be similar to the Deftones' Koi no Yokon from last year, where I think it's very safe to say you're going to see both of it. Or, you're going to see it on both lists. And now I'm going to turn the camera off, because for the first time in 4 years, I've actually been nervous doing an album review. You can't see me, but I'm shaking like a motherfucker. Thank you very much for listening to this fanboy ramble on and on about Alice in Chains, and hopefully a fair fashion. And now I'm going to go listen to Low Ceiling again, because that song is awesome. I wait and can't wait to read your comments below. If you like this review, and hope that not all of them are like this, as more of a fanboy, they're not. So you should probably subscribe because, we're a nation. And as a nation, we like to grow and conquer and eat. Eating is cool. Yeah, real cool. Rest in peace, Layne Staley. Rest in peace, Mike Starr. But all hail Alice in Chains.